Hello everyone. I'm Gabs Ferreira, developer advocate here at Meteor, and today we have one more live for you. It's been a while since we have made our last one, and the topic today is MongoDB. Why you should use this NoSQL database in 2024 and beyond. Its biggest advantages, use cases. We'll talk about migrations, about hosting, and a lot more. Today, I have here two guests from Meteor Software and one guest from a company called Woovi, a Brazilian fintech. And this guy used to be very famous on Twitter, but I don't know how it is nowadays. Are you famous on Blue Sky already, Sibelius?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm famous in Blue Sky. I think like a little bit less, but like I don't know. But yeah,
So,
I'm hoping to get Twitter back. I don't know.
oh yeah,
Twitter is good. Like Blue Sky is also good, but like I miss like the rest of the people. Only Brazilian is not enough. I think like we need
yeah.
to talk to the rest of the world. Like to be isolated is kind of crazy for me.
Yeah, I understand. At the end of the day, social networks are cool, but the best part are the people that are there, right? So if people are not
Yeah,
there,
I don't care
does it
about
make
like
sense?
being famous or not. Like I
Yeah,
care more about like interacting with other smart people in the world. That's what I care
yeah,
about.
yeah. So Sibelius is a Brazilian. He was a developer, still a developer, we could say, but currently he's the CTO of Woovi, a Brazilian fintech, and they use MongoDB and a lot of other stuff there. And we'll talk a bit more in a few minutes. But before, let me say hi to Bruno Medeiros, one of our developers here at Galaxy and at Meteor. How are you, Bruno?
Hello, I'm doing pretty good. And you guys? Yeah.
Yes, I'm fine. And last but not least, our CEO, Fred Maia. How are you, Fred?
Hello, everyone. I'm great. I'm great. Glad to be here.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for you all being here, especially Sibelius, for this live. And I'd like to start asking you a question. What is Woovi, Sibelius? What you guys are building there?
Okay, so Woovi is like a startup we are building here in Brazil. I think 2, 3 years from now, and we started Woovi to innovating on the payments, but like focusing a lot on the instant payments rails. So we have Pix here, is a new payment method here in Brazil, where you pay and then you send money from one account to another account like in fewer than 10 seconds. And then I liquidate the transaction in 10 seconds. So it's very fast. Don't have to wait like few days to settle the transaction. So that's great. And we believe like everybody in the world or every country will adopt instant system payments and sometimes too. So we have like FedNow, US, we have I think Rupee in India, China has these instant payments using QR codes. So we believe like everybody's gonna use instant payments. And we are building here in Brazil, and then you can get like all this knowledge and apply in other countries that have this technology. So I think that's great because we can innovate, everything's new, so it has like a lot of opportunities to bring like new products, new use case that wasn't allowed or wasn't possible with credit cards and boletos that we have here. So Pix is awesome.
Boletos. That is something that is very hard to explain, right?
Yeah,
For
it's
people in other
painlessly.
countries.
That's crazy. Yeah, I think every country has this kind of like payment method that's kind of weird or different. They are trying to solve. Just like there's no right way of doing payments. You want to like move like money from one account to another, but like we also need to have like conciliation, and then we need credits. You have like push and pull types of payments. So it's a very complex problem to solve. It's not easy. Like I think Brazil Central Bank made like a really great job building Pix, and the documentation is awesome. Like everybody uses Pix in Brazil. It's really changing Brazil for good. I think that's one of the best things in Brazil right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's amazing. So let's talk about MongoDB a little bit. Tell us, why did you choose MongoDB at Woovi? Like with so many great options out there, SQL options, NoSQL options. Why did you choose? Why have you chosen MongoDB?
Okay, I think like if you're starting like a new startup or building like a new product, you have only two choice of database as the general purpose database for to store your data. I think like you can use like Postgres or MongoDB. I think that's the only two choice, good choice. Both of them are open source. The thing about Mongo, they have like a company behind it, so it's getting better over time. So yesterday we had like Mongo 8 release, so it's getting faster. So imagine like you're using a database and then kind of like for free, you just upgrade like the database version, it's faster. So you get like all this performance from the community or from the company. And then that's awesome. And I think like everything that you can do with the SQL, you can do with NoSQL. I do prefer NoSQL because you need to have like more discipline to design your database, your data collection based like in your read patterns to make sure everything's gonna be fast. Not like for today when you have like a few items in your collections, but it's gonna be faster forever, you know. How do you design a database or a query or I don't know, your model to always be fast, you know? I think like everybody wants fast. So we're building like instant payments. So everything should be instant in my platform, you know. So when some people are trying to see the transactions, they want to see like transaction very fast. And one thing that's very hard on fintechs is the ledger, is where you store all your transactions, moving money from one to another. So these collections can get like very, very big. And then if you design this with like a lot of join, like SQL, you probably won't be able to reach like a very high TPS, like to write in your accounts, modifying like the balances. So you need to design your collections, your data modeling with the performance like at the first stage, you know. That's the thing that you should do. And I don't know, SQL, you're probably gonna try to solve like these transactions, but you're gonna notice like transaction not enough slow if you have like a lot of transactions per day, per minute. So I think NoSQL is great because it makes you like think differently, you know. I think that's the thing, you know. And I believe you have like a simpler data model because like you have your fewer collections, you have and you have like fewer collections, you have like fewer joins, you have fewer of like doing like bad stuff, you know.
Yeah, basically can go faster, right? If you're startup, like of course, it has many use cases, but if you're a startup and want to go fast, I think MongoDB is great. Like I totally agree with you.
And what about that discussion about SQL versus NoSQL? Does it still make sense in 2024, like with the recent evolutions of MongoDB? Like, what do you have to say about that, Sibelius and Bruno too?
Okay. Yeah, I think like you can do like most of modeling NoSQL and SQL. And but like if you have like a lot of joins, if you want to join like a lot of data from a lot of tables, it's probably gonna be faster on SQL instead of NoSQL. But I think you should not have like too many joins. That's the thing. Even with SQL, we should avoid like having like too many joins because joins is gonna be very, very slow over time. So if you design it, if you only have if you only need like to access like one collection, one table, it's faster. It's always gonna be faster than accessing like many collections or tables, you know. So I think that's it. You can do like most of design is on SQL or SQL, and then the difference is going to be like the performance based on what you need. Like if you have like more joins, SQL is better, but I think you should have like fewer joins or even no joins at all.
No joins at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can, if you know how your data is going to be stored, you can optimize it a lot. And like not doing plenty of joins is going to be a good way to have like fast queries. And yeah, about your question, Gabs, I think that on the beginning of this discussion about SQL and NoSQL, we like it was almost like a battle of two teams where there was like the SQL team and the non-SQL team, and it wasn't discussed a lot about how much about the benefits of each of the options we can choose. It was almost like a team fight. But today, I think it's getting like clearer what are the places to use SQL and NoSQL. And actually, like today, I would say that the option of choosing any of them is also getting better. For example, I think that MongoDB is getting better at handling relational data. Like we are getting improvements on performance of pipelines, aggregates, lookups. In the same way, like for example, if you're using Postgres, you can use like JSON columns, so you can have like a data where you don't know yet the model, for example. Uh, but in general, I think like each of them are getting like clearer. For example, if you know how you are going to be reading your database, for example, if you're building a MVP, for example, and you know what are the screens, you can optimize your data to be matching the UI you have. And it's pretty cool because mainly on MongoDB, the storage is JSON-like. So you are going to be thinking about JSON right up when you're thinking about like the requests you're going to make to your API. So everything gets like more streamlined how you're thinking about the structure of the data. And yeah, but like for example, I think SQL and still have like some places. For example, if you don't know how you're going to be reading the data, let me say you have one database that are going to be reading from they're going to have reads from multiple services that you don't know how they are going to be querying your database. Maybe having like a Postgres server might make sense. And if you really need like all the guarantees that you have with about consistency, for example, and the transactions features you got on a SQL database, you might go for that. But I think like today, mainly like for new products, I think using a MongoDB is going to be like very great. And it's going to be very simple to scale later. So yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned a few cases where SQL makes sense. I would like to ask the opposite. Like, are there cases where NoSQL is truly a better fit? Like, if you're doing this or that, you must use NoSQL or you must use MongoDB.
So yeah, I think like if you don't know like your data model at first, if you have like if you want to have more flexibility, I think MongoDB is kind of better. Like NoSQL is kind of better because like it's easier to modify your data from like the old schema to a new schema. And one thing that people don't understand, like that you have a schema even NoSQL, you know, maybe like it's not like a explicit one, like database not enforcing the schema, but like you need to enforce the schema like in application level, because if you don't have the schema, it's crazy. It's like it's like you have no SQL, but like it's not like go horse at all, you know. You need to have like the discipline. I think that's even harder because you need to ensure this in the application level, but that's good. I think if you have like a lot of like non-structured data, I think NoSQL is better. And then you have like other types of database. So depending on the workflow, you can have like columnar database. They are better like for analytics and all. And as you grow, you can add like more database if you need like if you want like to optimize for your use case, you know. So I think like MongoDB is kind of easier to scale if you don't have like a lot of DevOps and all, because they have like replica set. So it's kind of easier to set up like replica set then scaling Postgres to like main instance. MongoDB has like a lot of different type of index. So get all this for free. With Postgres, you're gonna have like a lot of plugins that doesn't work so well. I think that's it. I think that's easy to use. The DX is great. So SQL has this problem of arms. You have like this leak abstractions. Instead of like writing SQL, people prefer to like choose kind of like objects and all. And then you're gonna write like very bad SQL queries for your database. So if you're using SQL, just write the SQL queries instead of like using norm. That's my advice for you.
We have a good question here from our friend Daniel Hayes to you, Sibelius. He's asking, what is the current
Okay.
read-write throughput at Woovi today?
Yeah, it's very slow, I guess. It's only 2K TPS. It's very low, like we are still growing. Yeah, it's like consuming, I don't know, 10, 20% of our on-premise infra in our data server. So it's very slow for now, but like you can scale very very well. We're not consuming like a lot of our hardware, so we have like a lot of space to grow easily for now. Just have like a very big machine, like 250K, 256 gigabytes of RAM. So it's a lot.
Wow.
So it's very fast. Everything's fast.
Good. And if you do have any other questions, Danielle, or you, everyone that is watching right now, just send them in the chat and I'll read them in a while. So you already mentioned that if you are starting with an application that you don't know exactly the how to model the data, like what's the shape of it, we could say, you're going to, of course, start your application in a way that is going to be Did I move? Oops.
Okay.
Are you listening to me?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can hear
and
it.
listen now.
Okay, sorry, I don't know what happened here. I just anyway. So I'm going to start my question again. When using MongoDB, what precautions should be done related to modeling, guys? What is like the way that you should model your database so you won't have problems in the future when working with Mongo?
Okay, I think you should have like the same thinking like in SQL, NoSQL. So you always start like, how are we gonna read the data? Which fields or what queries do you want to use to get the data? So if you're getting like transaction from what company, you're probably gonna need like an index for the company. So you always think about like what kind of fields need the index to make fast, what fields you're gonna use to query the database, and then you add this index. All the other data they're going to store in the collection, I think it doesn't matter at all, because you're not like querying for them. So that's the index is the really important part that you should take care when you're doing like this database modeling, I guess. How you're going to read the data, and then you can go over and over to optimize this. And then you can use like Query Planner to see like the performance is pretty good or not. And then if something's bad, you need to remodel your database to make fast.
And one thing I think that's different from SQL, and I want to hear you guys' opinion, is when you have a SQL database, you think about normalization, right? So you don't want to duplicate data. You want to avoid that at all costs, I think. And when you're using NoSQL, you probably will have duplicated data. Like that's common. That's I think the way to go when you're using a NoSQL database. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think that does it make sense?
Yeah, there's actually like the term for that's denormalization. It's actually like the opposite. Yeah. So because like having the data that you need to read close, being close to each other, like the data that you need to read multiple times. Let me say, if you always when you're reading data about a user, you want to also read their emails, for example. It's way better to have the emails list closer to the data, so you don't need to try to fetch another place, and you can have index queries. Everything is almost like all of one, basically, to get this data. Quite opposite like how you would do that on SQL, because you actually want to avoid these redundant data at all costs, due to how like its structure, how the SQL mindset's made. So yeah, I think should be the normalizing the data on the SQL database.
Yeah, I think it's fine to duplicate the data. And then as you scale, like you're probably gonna have like different tables or different collections. You're gonna write in your database in one way, you're gonna read like another way. Because like your writing pattern is different from the read patterns. So you write in some way, and then you do kind of like processing, like ETL, or you use like a naturalized view or move to data lake. So you can read from the data lake. So you can have like more optimized collections to read this. This is very common, like if you have like reports. So in Woovi, you have like many transactions per day, like millions of transactions per day. And then you need to make a report like per day, like how many transactions they did in a given day. And then instead of like reading all the transactions every time, we just materialize this. And then I have like another collection, materialized view, where we save only the aggregates of this. So instead of like querying all this data, like millions of rows, I just query like few rows, and it's very fast. And it's always fast, because as you add more items to your collections, it's gonna be very slow as you grow. You can like do sharding, but like a lot of complexity that you can avoid, that you should avoid if you can.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's say you decided you're going with MongoDB, and then your data is correctly modeled and everything is good. You're going to production. Now, how about monitoring? Like, how do you monitor the performance of your queries and connections in production?
Okay, yeah, at Woovi, like we use like a lot of self-hosted options, a lot of like open source, everything's open source, most of the things open source. We use like Elastic, ELK. We use like Kibana, Elasticsearch, and Elastic APM server to monitor like MongoDB and our application, TPS, all the stuff. And then you can identify all these low queries and optimize. I think like monitoring APMs, it's key to understand how your application is performing and to catch bugs in production and get like low queries and optimize. So optimization is like you should be doing like every day, or you should be doing like every week, Everything's gonna be like slower as you grow, because like you don't know, like as you're modifying your system, you like you have a very complex system, a distributed system, and then you are adding more stuff, you are modifying the queries, and then maybe a junior just push like a very bad query to production, like a cold scan without an index. You can just like make your app just blow out, So you need to monitor like every day, and then after each release, you need to monitor to see if you don't have like any kind of regression.
Do you have any kind of regression test, like to monitor performance if it's degraded or not? Like,
yeah, right now we don't have this. We just, I don't know, make a release, wait for some time and see it's worse. But like we can set like this kind of like trigger to see like something is not like working as expected. And I think that's the next step. We're adding like a lot of like work on this observability, DevOps, all this stuff. We're like a small team, so we prioritize more things that is gonna generate like value to our customers. Right now, it's very, very stable for now.
that's great. How about you, Bruno?
Yeah, so here on Galaxy, we have our own like monitoring system. For example, through the interface, we can monitor like the active connections, the disk usage, the number of operations per second, like the number of queries, updates, deletes, insertions, the network. We can and also have like get insights of slow queries, like monitor the performance of instances, like out through the interface. Obviously, we like right now, I think it's okay. We use Prometheus to get this data, and instead of like seeing everything from like our Grafana and everything, we built our UI for that. So like not only that, users who are hosting their MongoDB on Galaxy are also going to have this monitor for free. So it's pretty useful for us, and we also have logs and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's basically it.
Well, I don't think if everyone that is here right now knows that we offer this kind of service, like MongoDB hosting. This is something new, right, Fred? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure.
Who is it made for? Yeah.
Yeah, we released MongoDB hosting a few weeks back, I think on July, the end of July. So it's quite a new service for us, but we have many customers already using it, and it's been great for us. Like we migrated, I think, all of our own MongoDB databases to our own hosting platform right now, and we have a lot of customers migrating to it. And I think one of the key reasons that we made that is, of course, if you use Meteor.js, it is most likely that you will use MongoDB because you are very tied to it. And we are now offering a complete solution. If you're using Meteor.js, you can host your application with us on Galaxy, and now you can also host your MongoDB database. And it is quite common to have issues with our customers because of other providers upgrading their MongoDB versions, or they are forcing them to upgrade their MongoDB versions. And you have many customers that are just, they just want to take care of their business, and they have a app in production, and they don't want to be, upgrading stuff. And it was very common to see this kind of issue, like suddenly the app stops working and they have no idea why. Sometimes they blame Galaxy, and then we help them figuring out that it's not with us. So now they can, move their data, and our DevOps team is ready to help you. If you want to migrate your data to Galaxy, we have a few guides and a great way to help you migrate your data. And at Galaxy, we want to do that. We want to do that. Like, we won't force you upgrading your MongoDB version. Like, we respect your data, respect your time, and like, if you really need that at some point, we will give enough time to our customers to upgrade their MongoDB versions. But right now, we don't see any reason to like deprecate old MongoDB versions. I think the cost for us to support many MongoDB versions is not high, so we can do that. And I think that's the greatest thing about Galaxy. And of course, as Bruno said, we have many tools to help you monitoring your MongoDB database. And yeah, you can centralize, if you're using Meteor.js, you can centralize everything here on Galaxy. And if you're not using Meteor.js, you can also use MongoDB with us. And I think it's a great option. And we have a very competitive price comparing to other providers. So just take a look at our website. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us.
Yeah, the link to our website where you can see pricing, all the information you need is on the chat right now. If you're watching the recorded version, it's on the description. And Sibelius, where are you hosting your MongoDB instances, and why not on Galaxy?
Yeah, we're kind of crazy here. Like, we have our own infra. We just bought like a lot of hardware. We have like a lot of hardware. So we always like self-host MongoDB, our infra. Like, first like was inside of like a Kubernetes inside of the cloud, like AWS. And then right now we are using MongoDB self-host in our Proxmox instance. It's like Proxmox is a hypervisor. Like, we kind of like create like your own cloud with your own hardware. So it's very cool. You can like create virtual machines and containers, and it has like all this kind of abstraction. So we have like, I don't know, 5 machines, real servers, and then you can create like thousands of virtual machines and all. So it's pretty cool. And then we run MongoDB like this. It's very stable. It's crazy, And then we have like backups to S3, and then we also do like these backups to make sure everything's safe.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, but I think you have a great story. Like, I have heard, I have read some posts at Woovi blog, and yeah, it is. I think it's a nice journey to following and to learn with that. And in your case, that you are hosting your own MongoDB, it might be related to that or not. But do you have any cases where something went really wrong using MongoDB in production? It might be because you are self-hosting your MongoDB, or just because, I don't know, you made some wrong decision.
Yeah, I think like some problems gonna have like, even if you self-host or like you're using like SaaS solutions, like, I don't know, you made like a wrong data migration, mess up the database, or something went wrong, and then you need to do like a backup restore. So we got this. I think it was once, but like we had backup and it was working. That's good. In stage environment, we do this all the time, so it's fine. And one thing that went wrong, but like wasn't so bad, like one of the disks in our persistent volume in our Kubernetes of one of the MongoDB instance just messed up, like was corrupted for some reason. Like what we were running like 4 MongoDB instances instead of 3, so it was good. So we always run 4 instances instead of 3. We have 1 primary, 2 secondaries, and then we have 1 reading instance. And then if something goes wrong, we can always like start up like a new one. And I think that's the best setup for sure. I think that's the minimal setup for production, because if something goes wrong, you still have like one backup, and then you can just go online and customer won't even notice that something went bad, and then they have time to recover. I think that's
And
it. I think that the rest is cool.
yeah, everyone should really care about backups and also to test your backups to see if they are working. Because if oh yeah, I'm doing daily backups, and then when you need them, something goes wrong. So you should also test your backups.
So I'm seeing that we have a good amount of people from X today here on our live. Say hi if you're watching us from X. X is a place where people wouldn't watch us so much, but it looks like we got a good amount of people here. Say hi if you're watching us from X, please. And speaking of backup, yet how often do you back up your data there, Sibelius? Do you have like a specific backup schedule, or is it like depends on what data we're talking about?
No, everything needs to be automated. Like every hour I have backups, and then from S3 and from the disk. I think every hour it's good enough for now yet. But like if you think about it, like as we run like 4 nodes, we need the 4 nodes to be messed up to need like a backup.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, at Galaxy we offer by default a daily backup, and then we have custom plans. Like if you want to do like more often, you can also do that. So yeah.
And regarding data modeling, again, does it make sense to model the data in MongoDB, or do you prefer to leave it more flexible? Do you use any MongoDB framework specifically for that?
Yeah, we use Mongoose to create like the schema to have like TypeScript and all for DX. I think you always have a schema, like or explicit one or implicit one. And then you need to understand and how you're gonna like evolve the schema over time. You always have a schema. Maybe the schema is not like materialized in your code, but like you have the schema. It's just implicit. There's no other way.
Maybe in someone's mind.
Yeah.
But can you, I don't know if everyone that is here with us today knows exactly what you mean by having a schema or not, comparing SQL versus NoSQL database. I mean, at least from my experience, most of the developers that I worked with and me myself, I didn't have much experience with NoSQL databases, to be honest. I started with SQL Server and then went to Oracle and then went to PostgreSQL. And to me, it was just normal to have a schema and to have tables and joins and things that you guys are talking today that maybe doesn't make that much sense when we're talking about MongoDB. But you just told us, Sebastian, that you can create a schema if you want. So it's optional. You do have this framework. You mentioned Mongoose to create the schema if you want to.
Yeah, so the thing is, like, when you're using SQL, it requires you to define the table, define the database schema directly in the database. So you're gonna probably like create table, probably gonna do like some comments, oh, create a table, alter table, kind of like this. So you need to predefine how you're gonna save all this data in your database. And then with Mongo, you can store any kind of data you want in any row. You can have like different rows, different data for each row. Well, like this is crazy. And so the thing is, you probably should store the same type of data in the same collection or table, if you want to be able to do queries, aggregations, and I don't know, take some stats, statistics, and all. So you store the same data in the same collection, the same table. That's the way it is in the SQL or NoSQL, or if you're same developer. If you're crazy, maybe you can do something else. But like that's the normal way of doing things. Even on NoSQL, you have this store the same stuff, the same item, the same type in the same collection.
Yeah, and Mongoose is just one library, just one option, but there are many options that you can choose. Like in Meteor.js projects, it's very common to people to use simple schema. I think is one of the most used libraries for Meteor.js apps, but you have many other options. One that I'm using myself for some projects is the Jam Easy Schema that is created by John Mauro, and it is really great because you have a few options to define your schema. There is one like that is, I think it's called simple, not simple schema, but there is one that is I think more readable and more clean. But you can choose like defining your schema using a very similar syntax as simple schema. You can use Zod, that is a very popular library as well. So this is another option, but there are many options. Like if you search for that, and yeah, it's like Sibelius said, it's crazy if you don't use a schema. And the only different, not the only difference, but the main difference is that on SQL databases, the schema is defined at the database level, and with MongoDB, you do that at the application level. So you code what you want to have as your schema. So yeah, everyone should use schemas.
Yeah, and on the Galaxy beta that we have right now, we are using a abstraction we created ourselves called create typed schema that uses Zod to power the schema of our database. And it's pretty cool because on Meteor we have a lot of enums. For example, we have a lot of plan types, for example. And by using Zod also for the schema of the database, we can share like use schema from the database layer up to like the API layer. So it's way easier to share like code between even like front end and back end. So for example, enums got like really easy to deal on the Galaxy 2. And overall, I think that Zod is like a very powerful schema library. For example, you can do refinements and that kind of stuff. And yes, still, I think there are some places that you might want to leave a little bit of bridge to don't have schemas. For example, if you're dealing with webhooks and one webhook might have a metadata that you want to store in case you need to debug and or maybe like read later, but you don't know exactly what's going to come, maybe because the API they're going to send you, the webhook might change the metadata they send. You might just like have all the collection with very well defined schema and have like some field that's free to have any kind of data, for example. So I like a mix of both of them, having like mostly of it having schema, but I like how MongoDB allow us to do not like need to set everything to a schema.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing I think I mentioned to Henrique before, our engineering manager, and I say to Bruno here as well, I think it would be great if we have a live that our team could demonstrate a few libraries that we use internally at Galaxy. And this one, I think it's one of them. It would be nice to demonstrate to people how we do it and how we have type check with this library. Type safety, actually.
Yeah, it would be like amazing, like our DX using Meteor and create type of collection and group per se is amazing.
So we
Right,
do have.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna get this question here from Gotte Soprano. What do you think about people disrespecting MongoDB as an easy for dummies database as opposed to likes of Postgres? I think that maybe some people do joke about this related to maybe JavaScript as well. That is easy for beginners and don't understand the complexity of it. When you start studying it more, maybe there's a problem there. But what do you think?
I think like MongoDB it's kind of easier at first because you don't have to create table, just start like insert data in the database. But like the concepts are kind of the same, like both SQL and NoSQL, they gonna use like bittrace at the end, storing the data in the file, in the disk. So the concepts are the same. You still need to understand data modeling. You still need to understand how you're gonna query the data, your query workload. So I think it's easier if you don't know what to do. Maybe MongoDB is easier at the beginning, but like as you grow, as you want to scale your application, you need to understand all these concepts. There's no way to, how can I say, just create like a scalable product without understanding the concepts or understand how this works, how to use like a query planner, how they store the queries, how the index works, how can you optimize this. And this are the same concepts on the same side, you know. You have the same ideas on the SQL, and then you have the same on NoSQL, you know. So you can like avoid all this kind of topics, you know, that you learn mostly on the university. So you cannot like avoid this at all as you grow, as if you want like to build like scalable products.
Yeah, and I would even say that like the fact that MongoDB is easier on the beginning, I think it's because the language that you use to query data and manipulate data is way more natural, mainly for who works on like web development. For example, everyone knows JSON. Like it's going to be one of the first things you're going to learn. And when you are querying like a MongoDB table, if you want, for example, to filter the fields you want to retrieve, you're using JSON basically. The data that you send to MongoDB is also basically a JSON, like very JSON-like format. And yeah, even like the default driver for like the default MongoDB driver that you can use on JavaScript, for example, it's very easy to use. When you need to learn SQL, for example, you need to like learn a brand new language where like it's not you're thinking a lot about how you're going to be querying the data rather than the data itself. On MongoDB, you're just dealing with the data you're storing. So yeah, I think that's why the beginning of the MongoDB is easier, but like the concepts, like I think it's, the as hard as Postgres, for example, as hard as a SQL language to master it. But yeah, I think the baseline is easier.
Yeah, and I feel that sometimes developers, especially more experienced one, will say things like that. Oh, that thing is too easy in a kind of a negative way. But it's going to be easy, right? If it's not that complex, I mean, if we can make things easy, why make things complex? It's not like that is a bad thing to be easy, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the reasons that people sometimes don't like MongoDB is because they are not like following MongoDB changes and evolutions, because it's changed a lot in the recent years. So what do you guys think are the key changes over the recent years that MongoDB made and are great ones?
Yeah, I don't know. Like it was like a lot of change. I think like Mongo 8's kind of very fast, so they optimize like the query language. So it's gonna be like faster. I think like instead of like using oplog to read like what's changing the database, you have change strings. That's like a more production ready solution, like change data capture. I think Postgres also has something like this. So if you wanna like streaming data from the Mongo, like you're gonna get like all the changes in your database, get this string and use like a connector to a data lake or update like your Elasticsearch index or another database, naturalized views or reports. I think change strings is great. I think MongoDB has like a lot of options to enable you to make the trade-offs that you need, you know. So you can write very fast, but it won't be very reliable, you know. So you can write for one node. Imagine like you have 3 nodes, and then you can write to one node and say, okay, that's fine for me. And then what happens if this one node crash? You're gonna lose the data, you know. So you can have like application that's this is good or this is fine for you. So you imagine like you're getting data from, I don't know, a hardware, like they have like a signal. And then if you lose a few inputs of this data, that's fine, you know, because like you don't care about like each individual piece of data of this kind of logs. You just want like the aggregate. So losing like a few of them, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Like, but also Mongo enables you, okay, I'm gonna only understand that's right in the database if I say to at least like 2 nodes. And then if you have 2 nodes, 2 nodes need to crash to lose your data. So crashing 2 nodes is even harder, you know. So MongoDB enables you to have all this kind of like, they call like read concern and write concern. And then you can understand how safe is to write this data, how safe is to read this data, how consistent is this data. So Mongo enabled this, you know. So if you wanna do like a very high consistent data application that needs very high consistent, you can do this with MongoDB. But like most people don't understand this, and then I think a lot of people that do like a lot of complaints about MongoDB or about like anything, they're probably people that are not using this in production. So if you want to take advice from somebody, take advice from somebody that's using something in production. So if somebody's using MongoDB in production, you probably should listen to him instead of reading from somebody from Reddit about like some kind of like MongoDB doesn't work at all. So that's kind of like my advice. If you think about like Stripe uses MongoDB for their languages, so it's probably so I think MongoDB scales. You know, maybe they have like some kind of like notification data, but like it's a pretty stable database. If Stripe's using that scale, it probably is gonna work for your startup as well.
And they're
And
also and they're also a kind of fintech, right? Similar to Woovi. So when you're dealing with money, it's really important to have your data safe, and that's a great proof that it works even for complex scenarios and complex business cases.
and what have been the key changes and evolutions in MongoDB over the recent years, guys? I know that we just had a new release of MongoDB, MongoDB 8, yesterday. I don't know if you already had the time to take a look on what's new, but I would like to know your thoughts on that.
I think that's the question I just made, no?
Is
It's
it
better answered. Yeah.
really? Okay, I'm sorry. I just thought we were talking about the other.
Oh, I think you muted yourself.
What's going on with my mic today? I'm sorry, guys. So now that we have been focusing all this time.
And again, you muted yourself. I don't know what's going on there.
Hello.
I'm sorry. Are you listening now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's working now.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. So anyway, I lost track of what I was saying. Let me read some comments here from folks that are watching us. Sony's saying that it's better to use Zod to infer type for another schema. What is Zod, guys? By the way, I don't know.
It's a library for validating schemas that's very powerful. It has a lot of integrations with TypeScript. For example, you can get the types of your schemas just by using like a z.infer utility helper. And it's not only that, you can also do like refinements. For example, you can, if you want to allow only save users on the database with an odd age, for example, you can do a dot refine and have a like very custom logic. It's very easy to expand the logic. It's very easy to set an error map pattern. So yeah, it's like one of the best, in my opinion, like right now.
Hmm. Okay, so I do have another comment here from Goto Soprano. I think this is related to the question that we were talking earlier. I don't know exactly what he refers to, but anyway, Sony is saying MongoDB is really unstable with Kubernetes volumes getting a lot of input. Do you have any opinions on that, guys? About
I think
this?
maybe this is not like a problem with MongoDB, but like it's a problem like with KHS volumes at all. Because
Hmm.
like when you have like storage on Kubernetes is very hard because like if you have like many nodes, you need like to have kind of like Ceph, like a distributed storage. If you're doing like on premise, this kind of like transparent to when you use like a cloud because they have this block storage. So I don't think like the problem is the MongoDB in this case is the problem how you're working with your persistent volumes. Like persistent volumes have like a disk that you ask for the Kubernetes, but like this kind of like virtual disk needs to be like in a real disk somewhere, you know. And then if you have like more than one node in your Kubernetes, that's probably should be using like production at least 3. And then you have like this kind of problem, you know. That's why like some people think that's better to move the storage outside Kubernetes. That we did at Woovi. Most of our database and storage or any application that needs storage, we take off from the Kubernetes to make simple, because Kubernetes with volumes, it's very hard to have like very reliable volume solution. If you're not in the cloud, you know, you need like somebody that knows about Ceph. You need to have like a nice network, because it's kind of like a disk in the network. So the disk is not like in your machine. The disk like is distributed like in more machines. So it's not a very, it's not a simple problem at all. I don't think like MongoDB is the problem. Maybe the problem is how you are working with your PVCs.
Makes sense. And so I think I can ask one last question. That is, okay, we talked about a lot of features, a lot of specific things of MongoDB. And what did you say are like, to whom would you recommend MongoDB nowadays? Specific use cases, startup in early stage, big companies with big products, or it will depend a lot on what you're building.
I think like any product can use MongoDB. Like most of the products can use this. If you are trying to processing like a lot of logs, like Grafana and all, maybe you need like another database, because like to make analytics and all. I think for a general purpose database, MongoDB is really good. So you're gonna be good like with MongoDB and Postgres, 2 good options for this. And you're probably gonna need like other types of database as you scale, you know. So we have Redis here, and then we use Cache to do Redis. We use Redis a lot. We use Redis for event-driven here to do distributed jobs. We use for distributed lock. We have Elasticsearch to index the index, but like MongoDB also has search. And so if you want to, instead of like adding like Elasticsearch to do like this kind of search for your application, you can use MongoSearch. That's a simplified version of Lucene, but like it's better than build like from scratch. If you don't have time. I think that's it. I think it's pretty simple to scale, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I have just an opinion just to add to that. For a general purpose database, MongoDB is great. And then if you have specific cases, specific format of data that you need to store, just find the right tool for that piece of your application. But like for general data, MongoDB is great.
Okay, so I'd like to thank you guys one more time for your presence here today for the discussion. And for you that does not know Woovi yet, we're going to leave a link to Sibelius FinTech here in the chat and also in the description. And for you that has MongoDB or is thinking about working with MongoDB in the future, remember that we have a hosting option here at Galaxy to host your applications, to host your MongoDB instances. We are planning a lot of more different hosting options as well. And if you are a long-time Meteor.js user, always remember that the best way to support us is to host your applications in Galaxy. So the link's in the description, also in the chat, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you very much.
See ya.
Bye.
So guys.
Bye.